What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yoon. You're watching a Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last night I checked out Escape from Mogadishu. This is a South Korean film, which is a political action thriller based off of a true story. This film takes place in 1991 in Mogadishu. That's the capital city of Somalia. And if that sounds familiar, that's because another film, actually one of my favorite films, took place in Mogadishu, Somalia, and that is Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down actually takes place a few years after the events of this film. Regardless, I was still very interested in it just because, well, here's the crazy part. I actually never watched a single trailer for this film. I was just looking at films that were coming soon and also films that had good reviews, and this one happened to come up. And I checked it out, and wow! This film is absolutely fantastic. And by that, I mean that this is a good quality piece of storytelling. First of all, it's a true story, so that makes it even more interesting. But what it's really about is that there's these South Korean and North Korean diplomats. They work at the embassy, and they want to join the UN. And of course, South Korea and North Korea, they're opposing sides, but they're doing whatever they can to join the UN. And the North Korean side is doing some things that are quite questionable to join the UN, and the South Korean side is like, what the hell? That's like they're such cheaters, right? And so already you can see that there's tension between the two, like more so than there already is, because they're witnessing it firsthand. Okay, now on the backdrop of all this, there's civil unrest, and now the rioters or the militia, they are now going up against any foreign or friendlies of the Somalian government. So that would include all the foreign nationals that are working in the embassies, which would include the United States diplomats, the Italian diplomats, South Korean, North Korean, Chinese. So basically the militias and the rioters, they're going after everybody. So now it comes down to what the title suggests, and that is Escape from Mogadishu. So it's a story about survival. And now at this point, with the rioters hunting down the foreign nationals, and with the movie centered around the both Koreans, the South and North Koreans, the South Koreans and the North Koreans have to work together despite their differences, despite the fact that they don't like each other, despite the fact that they are, it's in their best interest to look out for themselves and not each other. They have to put aside all those differences. It's no longer political. It's about survival and doing the human thing, and that is to help each other. And that's what makes this film intense and very, very, like something that you could really connect with on a human level. Because honestly speaking, you could put like Americans in this story and it would just be a story about survival. But now you have another aspect to it. There's this, it's not even just a political aspect, it's the human aspect of the story, which makes you feel even more connected with these characters, because they got something personal against each other. It became really, really personal, and they have their own personal agendas, but you're gonna have to, in order to make it out of this alive, they're gonna have to put it aside, despite the fact that it's gonna be very, very difficult to do so. And you see that struggle in the movie. You really see that struggle and the conflicts that they're going through when they are in the presence within each other. And it is really, not only is it quite intense, but it's actually really quite moving, because you get to see both sides of the story. You see the South Korean side and the North Korean side. I actually originally thought that I'm just going to see the South Korean side, and the North Korean side will seen on a more, I guess, a more biased perspective. But actually, I love that they decided to show both sides. And you see the feelings of the North Korean side and not just the South Korean side. Sure, there's an emphasis on the South Korean side, but it's really cool that they decided to give both sides an equal treatment. So that's very, very cool as a South Korean film. And then at the end of it all, it's really about survival. Now, they don't have any guns. They don't have any weapons of any kind. they need to just rely on each other to watch each other's backs, and that's what makes it so interesting. They're going through all these ravaged cities, or rather the streets, which are full of bloodshed, and they're just trying to survive on their own. It's a really quite intense ride, and I love that, even though it's a political story, they still keep it. They take the politics and they make the politics take a backseat and make it more about the characters and what they're going through and make it more human story. So I really love that about it. And to top things off, there's actually quite a bit of action in this movie. I was a little bit worried about that. Okay, this is going to be like a really political story, but actually they keep the film really quite fast paced. They take some time to establish the setting and the setup, but at the end of the day, this is still an action movie, and there's actually quite a bit of action in this movie. I mean, it's not a non-stop action ride, but they still do it in a way where it's really perfectly paced, and right from the beginning to the end, you're just captivated. So I really love that about it. I highly recommend this film. Read some subtitles and watch this true story. It's a wonderful story, and there's some really good emotional beats. Like, there were some really moving parts in this movie that really made you think. It's a very profound story. Even though there are times where it feels like a popcorn movie, it actually has a really profound message to it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. One of the best films I've seen this year in the theaters, which is not very many because I've only seen 5 films, but still a really great film nonetheless. 9 out of 10. Go check it out. Highly recommend it. That's Escape from Mogadishu. If you enjoyed films like Argo, if you enjoy films like No Escape starring Owen Wilson, I think you're going to really like this film. Anyways, my name is Alex. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.